But in fact, that country exists. It is real. It is Hong Kong, one of the richest places of history. To answer my question succinctly, capitalism is responsible for Hong Kong as well. But what is capitalism? What is its nature and its defining essence? The freedom to open your own business and to trade unrestrictedly across national boundaries, as in Hong Kong, is a derivative issue. It is one consistent application of capitalism's fundamental nature: respect for the rights and the freedom of the individual. I'll repeat that. The essence of capitalism is respect and protection for the rights and the freedom of the individual. The essence of capitalism, of the capitalist system, is limited government which protects the rights of individuals to live by their own judgment in all areas of human life, personal morality, as well as in the economic area. Such a system guarantees individuals freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of intellectual expression. Individuals are free to earn and to own property, their own homes, their own farms, their own land. They're free to start their own businesses and to retain the profits that they earn. Capitalism provides a rule of law that protects private property, safeguards investments, and enforces contractual agreements. The overarching principle is that capitalism is the system of individual rights. Capitalism, as defined by Ayn Rand, is the system of individual rights, including property rights, in which all property is privately owned. Now that's a definitional statement. Let me repeat that. Capitalism is the system of individual rights, including property rights, in which all property is privately owned. Now, deeper at the moral level, capitalism is based on an ethical code of rational egoism, the code that recognizes an individual's need to attain the values that his life requires. That the nature of human life requires an individual to use his own mind and put forth his own effort to earn the values upon which his survival, prosperity, and happiness depend. Capitalism protects an individual's inalienable right to pursue his own happiness. It is the only political economic system consistent with the moral principle that an individual has the right to his own life, that your life belongs to you, not to the state. And it is the only system that consistently repudiates the slave driver mentality that individuals owe selfless service to others, whether to society, the state, the race, the tribe, the proletariat, et al. Capitalism's history has been so largely ignored, or worse, distorted by Marxist journalists and intellectuals, that it's important to identify some of its most important points. For example, Great Britain during the late 18th and early 19th centuries was the first nation in the world to gradually throw off the oppression of feudalism and the monarchy and begin to institute a system of individual rights. Also during this period, Britain's North American colonies fomented a historic revolution that established the freest country of history. In the 19th century, the ideals of individualism, limited government, and capitalism gradually spread to most of the nations of Western Europe, leading there to the overthrow of the ancient regime, the monarchy, the feudal aristocracy, and the official, established, unchallengeable state religion. For the next 100 years, individual rights, freedom, and capitalism existed exclusively in Western Europe and North America. Now, what were the results of such freedom in the Western world? One leading economic historian, Angus Madison, estimates that in Europe in 1700, per capita income was roughly $265, which means people were living on significantly less than $1 a day. Most European nations were akin to Africa today. Africa, generally the poorest area on Earth. Desperately poor, famine-ridden countries. I think of Europe. This is just 250 years ago, in 1760, on the eve of the Industrial Revolution in Great Britain. I think of Europe, in my own mind back then, as Third World Europe. And 250 years, I mean, according to evolutionary biology, Actually, I get a different answer from every biologist I ask. But, you know, modern man with the type of brain that human beings have today has been on Earth for roughly 200,000 years. So 250 years, it was a snap of the fingers. In 1760, on the eve of the Industrial Revolution, Great Britain, the world's most advanced country, the land of Locke, Newton, and the Glorious Revolution, life expectancy did not reach 35, just 250 years ago. The rest of the world, it was lower. So Africa today, most of Africa today, as desperately poor as it is relative to the Western world, Europe back then was vastly poorer than almost all places in Africa today. Because almost anywhere you go in Africa today, you find some benefits of modern medicine, modern agriculture, automobiles, airplanes, electricity and the electric light, even computers and the internet. Obviously, none of that existed in Third World Europe for the simple reason that none of it had yet been invented. Those are all inventions of the capitalist era. In fact, I think every one that I mentioned pretty much invented in America. So Third World Europe was desperately poor. I mean, the one place on Earth that might rival it today would be North Korea, where you know, the living conditions are just absolutely abysmally destitute. Now, Britain's technological and industrial revolutions in the late 18th and 19th centuries brought extraordinary progress. For the first time in centuries, the minds of, maybe the first time ever, the minds of common men, the commoners, were freed from bondage to the feudal aristocracy and the established religion, free to ask and answer scientific questions, at least in Britain, to apply newly discovered principles to practical concerns, to invent technologies, to industrialize, and to manufacture vastly increased supplies of consumer goods. James Watt, as one outstanding example, self-taught Scottish inventor. Scotland, considered the poorest country in Europe at that time, was to say something if it was poorer than Ireland. Right? But Watt, as one outstanding example, perfected the Thomas Newcomen steam engine, the so-called work engine of the Industrial Revolution, which immeasurably increased men's ability to manufacture consumer goods, starting, of course, in the textile industry. Edward Jenner, another commoner, created a vaccine for smallpox, history's deadliest killer. George Stephenson, another commoner, pioneered the design of the locomotives and the construction of railroads. All of these thinkers and many more were commoners whose minds and activities would have been stifled under the ancient regime that continued to hold sway on the European continent. It was Britain's far greater political economic freedom that provided the social conditions her most innovative minds required to promote unprecedented material progress. Respect for individual rights that was growing in Britain. If you have the right to your own life, that includes, of course, the right to your own mind. The right to freedom of speech, freedom of intellectual expression, freedom to come up with new ideas, to invent technologies, to start your own business, to seek profit. And you know, as soon as you see the principle of individual rights growing in Britain, roughly turn of the late 18th, turn of the 19th century, you see the extraordinary economic progress, the technological and industrial revolutions that take place in Great Britain during that era. In the 19th century, based on advances in theoretical science, the great theoretical scientist, of course, was Newton, who died in 1727. But you see the application of his theories throughout the Enlightenment era and into the 19th century. So the advances in theoretical science, applied science, technology, industrialization, medicine, and agriculture